What's up, angels? My name is Chelsea and welcome back to my channel. Okay, I am back to filming on my phone today, which is a bit of a pain, but I've tried to film on my camera for the last hour and a half, and all my footage keeps coming up blurry no matter what I do, so we've resorted back to filming on my phone, so the quality might not be as good as it has been, but I still want to get a video out, so let's go. Okay, so for this week's video, I thought we would do a bucket list, like a paranormal bucket list, what's on my paranormal bucket list at least. We're going to do top 5. So yeah, it's just like a normal bucket list, but with spooky locations I would like to visit. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, so number 5 on my list is the Waverly Hills Sanatorium. So, as many people that watch my videos probably know, I'm a big Sam and Colby fan. I have kind of been obsessed with this place since I watched their video where they went there. I just thought it was one of their best videos for evidence to date, personally. I don't know. There have been some pretty good videos recently, but yes, I thought the way that they conducted the investigation was really cool. So for those of you who don't watch Sam and Colby or don't know what the Waverly Hills Sanatorium is, it was a TB hospital, but before that it was just a home with a schoolhouse. But obviously during the early 20th century, it was turned into a TB hospital because it was like the perfect distance from the town in Kentucky that it is in, and it was a place where people could rest and find peace. But obviously, unfortunately, due to the TB, a lot of people passed away. There's also a story of a nurse that committed suicide, or potentially it was a homicide. So yes, I would love to go there. I would love to do a little investigation, Sam and Colby style. So yeah, if anyone, hopefully I'll get out to the US at some point to get on with that one. Number 4. So number 4 on my list, and some people will probably be surprised at this, number 4 on my list is actually the Conjuring house. I know it's on a lot of people's bucket list, however, not on the top of mine. I think it might be because it's in the US. I've watched a lot of investigations with this house, however, it's not on the top of mine. Maybe when I get out to the US I'll be able to get over there. If anybody doesn't know, it is now owned by another family and their daughter Maddie. I think her name's Maddie. I'll put her TikTok handle here. I watch her TikToks all the time of her when she goes back home and visits the Conjuring house, and I like to watch her little lives that she does where she investigates and she uses the dowsing rods. I think that's so interesting. It's also weird to me that people could just live in a house like that with all the stuff that happened/happens, but I kind of would like to go sit in the basement for a bit. Maybe I'm a psychopath, who knows. I would like to go sit in the basement for a bit and just see if anything happens, and see what evidence we could collect or capture. So yeah, hopefully again when I get back to the US, or when I get to the US, because I've never been, my bad, when I get over to the US, hopefully we can make that happen. Now for some honorary mentions. As I've just said, I'm a big Sam and Colby fan. So I'd like to do the Sally house, and I'd quite like to go to a couple of the locations that they've actually done in this recent series. But for me, the big ones that I'd like to mention, which aren't famous at all, but for me they were like a big part of my childhood, is the house that my dad grew up in. I actually spent like 7 or 8 years of my life living in that house as well. And there are some spooky stories. Next week's video will actually go into more detail. I was gonna wait till my mum was here to film that video with her so she could help me tell that story, but I don't know when I'm gonna see her again. So I'm gonna film that this week for next week. So there'll be more about why I would like to go back there and do a paranormal investigation next week. But also I would like to go, we had some family friends growing up who moved into a converted barn, and I would really like to go back there because that place always gave me the creeps, and there was definitely something in there. So I would quite like to go back and see if we can find out whether it was just my overactive imagination or whether there was actually something spooky. Number 3 is number 4. Number 3, one second because I've got little hands. Number 3 is the Ancient Ram Inn, which is actually down in Gloucester, so a little bit closer to my hometown of Bristol, probably about an hour or two away from where I used to live. The Ancient Ram Inn was originally built on ancient pagan grounds, an ancient pagan burial ground. And when there was some investigation into why the spooky stuff was happening, they actually found bodies and, well, like skeletons, because it was a long time ago, and a dagger. So that's why they believe that it was actually ancient pagan burial grounds that this inn was built on. The inn was originally built in 1145 for slaves and trade workers. However, eventually they moved out and a priest moved in, and he opened it up to the public so the public could use it as a boarding house or to stay. That was until a man named John Humphreys moved in 1968. He bought it and he moved him and his family in, but it wasn't long until the paranormal experiences started to occur. It was actually that very first night that they stayed there that the John experienced having his ankles grabbed in bed and being pulled out of bed, which is terrifying. But yeah, so that's the first experience that he had, but it when became a nightly occurrence, kind of got to the point where his family couldn't stand it, so they actually left him there. But John lived there until 2017, when unfortunately he passed away, and it was passed down to his daughter. So his daughter owns it now. You can now go and do paranormal investigations there. I'm pretty sure you can stay the night too. So if anybody works there that would like to let me and my pals come and have a little investigate, I would really appreciate it. Okay, number 2 is the Edinburgh Vaults. For those of you who don't know what these are, there is a series of tunnels and vaults underneath Edinburgh. These were originally built to be like a shopping market. However, it actually became illegal to be homeless in Edinburgh at this time. So a lot of the homeless people were moving into the vaults, and with that came a lot of the criminals, because the police wouldn't go down there. They would just, like, it was sort of like the police wouldn't have anything to do with it, and then the criminals soon realised that they could then get away with their crimes if they were down there, because the police was going to catch them anyway. And so, as you can imagine, it was a really horrific place to live back in the day. If you do a vault story, they explain a lot more of the history to you. I definitely recommend going and having a little look at one of those. I am cheating slightly with this one. I have done a paranormal investigation in Edinburgh Vaults. It was with a big group of people with Fringe Festival during the summer, so it wasn't like a directed one with just like me and my pals. That is what I would like to do. I would like to go back down there with Becca and some friends. Me and Becca have had conversations about this. Becca's my flatmate, for those of you who don't know. We would quite like to do the Estes method, but rooms away from each other, so we obviously would need a couple more people to help sit with us while we do that. But we'd like to do the Estes method. Becca wants to go to the Witches Circle, which is in one of the vaults, and sit inside and do the Estes method. Maybe she's crazy, maybe she's just skeptic, we'll never know. But there's also a room in the vaults that I personally really don't like. If anybody has been to the vaults, it is the room that has the door above it. So the wall goes up as the vault, and there's a door which leads to another vault. I don't like that room. It makes me feel uncomfortable. It scares the crap out of me. I'd quite like to go sit in there alone for a little bit and see if I could capture anything. So yeah, that is very high on my list. It is quite expensive to go down there, so I again need to save and see how that goes. But yeah. And finally, number 1. Okay, so number 1 is 30 East Drive. Okay, so 30 East Drive, I'm not going to go too much into the history because I actually did a video on it last week. So if you want to know that, you can go back and watch that one. Thank you very much. So 30 East Drive has been at the top of my list for a very, very long time. I actually was under the impression that it had been knocked down until I watched the Overnight channel. So that's Elton and Corey, for those of you who don't watch paranormal YouTubers. They went, it was called the Poltergeist House, but I know that house like the back of my hand. It's 30 East Drive. I've dreamt about being in 30 East Drive before. My dreams are wild, but we'll get onto that another day. So yeah, that was at the top of my list. I was under the impression it had actually been knocked down though, which is why nobody could go there anymore. That is not the case. It is still very much there. So again, this is another location that I've actually emailed, and whilst we do plan on going and doing an investigation there, it is expensive. And something that worries me is that I actually had a big group, a couple of messages from people on my last few videos telling me that 30 East Drive is fake and that it's not worth the money, which worries me because I don't want to spend all that money and then it's a waste of my time. But at the same time, it is so high up on my list that I'd think I'd feel pretty stupid if I didn't go, so we will try and get over there. Okay, that is it for this week, guys. I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of the week. If there is a location that I didn't mention in this video that you think would be cool for an investigation, please let me know in the comments. Or if you have stayed there or you've been to any of these locations and have cool evidence, you can also let me know down in the comments, because I'm always super interested to read people's paranormal stories, as we all know. Again, I hope everyone has a wonderful week, and I will be back next Friday at 5 p.m, hopefully with my camera working. Yeah, I'll see you then. Okay.